Hey everybody, if you're reading the title of this video, I know, hot take alert, but I think Relapse by Eminem is Eminem's best album, including the bonus songs, and here's why. First off, before I go deeper into my script of this video, if you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nightmare on Kelp Street. I mainly cover newer music, sometimes older music, but mainly new music, like this yearly, coming out this year. Newer albums, singles, songs, whatever, either through shorts or on my main channel. So I highly suggest following and subscribing if you're into following newer music and you want good suggestions, even if it's something I don't like. I've had multiple reviewers I've followed over the years who they say a genre of something that they don't like, but it sounds like something that would fit my genre of what I like. So I highly suggest following just for updates on new music in general, even if it's things I do or don't like, and you might like it yourself if you hear about it. If you're returning to the channel, welcome, thank you. There's at least 50 of you now. I'm happy to have y'all sticking around to hear all these updates and all these, like, whether the main channel or the shorts, however you found me. Thank you for sticking around. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you're new here. If you are returning, just leave a like and comment if you're willing to spare it about what you think about this current project I'm covering or what you've been listening to recently. Just in general, I like hearing it, or a recommendation for me to cover. I love hearing those. But today we're going to be talking about Relapse by Eminem and why I think it's the best Eminem album. And at this point, by reviewing it, re-listening to it for this video, I know it's my favorite Eminem album. I wanted to release this on Halloween Day, but I accidentally deleted all the film I had for it. So we're getting a bit of a delayed spooky celebration with this one. Being his most horrorcore album, that's why I wanted to theme it around Halloween Day. But, you know, we're running a little late, but that's okay. We'll get to it. And art always hits in a certain time, sometimes of creation, where today felt like a better day and was a better day for me to film this than the day I originally planned it. I wasn't very happy with the original video anyways, so here we are. As you can see from down here, last thing I'll address before I upload this tonight is that it's currently, as of November 5th, 2024, election day right now as I'm filming this. If you're seeing this, it's probably past time to be able to vote, but I hope you did this year, and, you know, hope this is a good stress off of that. I'm not going to go into depths about politics on this channel a lot, unless there's something said in an album or a song that addresses politics, so I'm going to be addressing that because it's part of the music, which comes up a little bit in this review, as we'll see later. But in general, TLDR, Relapse is Eminem's best album to me because his approach to horror on this album are unmatched to any other album he does in his discography. Over the years, people have hated the voices he does on this album and one or two other albums, but I generally have grown to love it, and songs like 3 a.m. start out with a really good intro to kind of show us this approach he takes to these voices that add to the horror. Like, he's just insane, and the voice and the topic of the song fits the insanity about it. It's like 3 a.m. in the morning, put my keys in the door, this body's laying all over the floor. And the way he really approaches the song writing and song topic really fit what's going on here. I will address, though, that although I like this song and other songs on here, I don't like the tone he talks about molestation and rape on the song Insane. While we're going into it, he brings up on the track 3, it's either track 3 or 4, I believe. It's very early in the album. He makes this really jokey song where the song opens with, like, was fucked in the head. My father said that I sucked in the bed, and then it keeps going on this, like, really, it's too playful for a song in a horror album, and it's the only song I would remove if I would remove an song of Relapse, would be Insane. Just because it comes so early, and it's such a bouncy, like, trying to be silly, gross song about rape, that I just don't like it. Although there are other songs on the album, like Same Song and Dance and the prelude Tanya, to where he does talk about raping women, but it also makes it that so much more creepy and unnerving when he's not doing a voice, and he's just very straightforwardly delivering a song talking about abducting this woman, Tanya, when her GPS goes down. Throwback to the days of OnStar. He mentions the OnStar GPS in this song. He's like, "Oh, hello, Tanya, your OnStar is stuck inside of your car, stuck," or something like that. And then he eventually kidnaps her. He's like, "You just got body jacked and it's a wrap in broad day." Yeah, a lot of these songs are kind of set where he's like, yes, the horror of it is that, like, you got snatched in broad day and nobody noticed. Although the skit earlier right before makes it a little weird, because in the skit Tanya, it was like raining and, like, obviously, like, had like a dark, moody, rainy atmosphere. So it's weird that he mentions she got snatched in broad day, but we'll assume here, suspension of disbelief, she got snatched in the rain in the middle of the day. That's not the ultimate point about the song I wanted to make, but, you know, it's just a little weird tone-wise when you kind of go through the skits. Sometimes they kind of mesh with the song that comes after them, or at least what the song says after them. But yes, it makes it so much more creepy in songs like Same Song and Dance, where he delivers it straightforwardly with no voice, no voice inflection. But the topic is just so so raw and real and scary in a way for women and femme-presenting people, especially. I don't always present feminine, but when I do, I definitely kind of feel that fear of men coming onto you, or the rejection of men being very dangerous in some scenarios, so I highly relate to that. I can't say highly. I relate to it more now as I grow up and embrace my non-binary identity and presenting both masculine and feminine in public. How, you know, both sides of it. I can honestly say that being masculine in public is safer most of the time than being feminine in public. But that's just from my personal experience. There are some really good sincere moments in this album, though, like Beautiful, Deja Vu, which I both loved growing up, especially Deja Vu. Having people around me growing up and myself in some lower moments of my life dealing with drug addiction. It's a very relatable type song. I was actually surprised that both these were one of the bigger singles that came away from the album. And then some moments that are more leveled out, like, hello, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Shady. So nice to meet you. I love that song. It's a good, really bouncy, kind of ease back break, but it still reminds you of certain points in the album where he's like, I'm just busting my own chops, so I'm busting a rap, talking about his drug addiction. Like getting on to himself in verse about how fiending he was for pills, like around his house. Which I think is a very introspective part of the album that I really like, just like Beautiful. Beautiful is a long song, but really embraces that. He's like, don't let anybody ever tell you you're not beautiful. And it's a really sincere and wholesome message I like, and it's a really good break in an otherwise horrifying and very real theme about sexual assault, rape, kind of giving in to your vices and addictions and things like that. And there are some of his more famous songs or singles on this album, like We Made You. But ultimately, as I get older, songs that people found more cringy growing up, like Bagpipes from Baghdad, one of the biggest singles, I actually really love. The song is really funny and bouncy to me. I think it's a bit of a shame as we go on in the years how Eminem calls this one of his worst albums to him. Because growing up, I really liked horrorcore and horror-themed media in general. So growing alongside this album, I really love this album. To this day, I still love it. You know, I was listening to it in the past month or two for this video. And one of my friends and I have an ongoing bit to each other where we call each other at 3 a.m. and just sing the song 3 a.m. at each other. So it really just kind of holds a special place in my heart for some of my friends. It's just sad for me there's no LP pressing of the deluxe album, because as I go back and listen to it, I really like the deluxe songs as well. And they really kind of continue to add on to the lore and history of this album. Like Hell Breaks Loose, My Darling, when he's kind of like talking to his like, what I would now consider his altar. People kind of talk about how they have an altar they talk to in their brains. Like in this song is Eminem's altar. He's talking to about how he's trying to draw him back into his addictions, his like need for fame and things like that. Or Music Box, all adding to the lower narrative of the spooky themed album and how it goes about. Why I took my time leading up this album review is because this is one of my favorite albums I've covered on the channel. And after seeing so much response, and honestly negative response in general to my first video, I really wanted to cover something about Eminem on this channel and talk about him again over an album I really love. And I think it's okay and healthy to approach things you like or listen to or even love over the years with critiques. I generally love and still listen to this album at least one time a year, or at least every other year. I think it's okay to approach and talk about things and critique things that you really love, especially when it comes to things like women in horror, rape, abuse, drugging women. At least to my knowledge, is something I want to positively spread and talk about, that I don't stand by these things, or the homophobia that appears in this album. Especially how it ends on the last song with Underground and King Kniff. King Kniff is this like mimicking a gay stereotype character he's brought up in a few albums, which I still don't like. It's just a bit of a taint on albums that otherwise would be really good to me. And I've talked about my other Eminem review, and I'll talk about here, that as a kid, hearing so much homophobia publicly in music or through people I grew up around in Alabama, it kind of suppressed my urge to want to come out, or like my need to really come out and be myself in public, out of the fear of blowback from people I knew, or people who also like, you know, this type of music with me, and they were like stood by the type of homophobia that Eminem said. So if you are out there and listening to this video and you're afraid to come out for any reason, I do want to genuinely let you know it's okay. But also, growing up in the South, I understand if you're not in a place where you feel safe to do that. I grew up in the South for about 18, 19 years. I've currently been out in the city. I won't say where, but out in the city for about 8 or 9 years. So not the majority of my life, but a good chunk of it. And I'll say that if you're in a place where you need to be safe and feel safe before you can fully come out to everybody in your life, just be strategic and safe about who you tell. I brought in people that were like my close friends, like my inner circle friend group at high school or middle school, and even up until college, wasn't really fully out to all my family and everybody. It's kind of a recent development within the past 4 years or so. But just be strategic about who you tell. And if it feels like somebody in your family, whether it's somebody you live with or somebody extended family that you see often, I understand it's hard not to kind of show them that side of you, especially if it's more visible, like with dyed hair, you going through transition, things like that. But just be strategic about who you tell if it feels like an unsafe environment. And if you can, please try to work towards getting out of that environment as you get older, especially in 18, 17, 19, 17, 18, 19, somewhere around there. You're getting more agency in your life, even up to 16, I'd say. Try to save money where you can to get out of the circumstance you're in that doesn't make you feel safe. I believe everyone that's queer and trans should be able to, queer, trans, non-binary, however you express yourself on the queer spectrum, be able to fully express themselves and be safe in an environment. So I hope you're able to, kind of fully come out at some point when you're in a better place. That's kind of the most serious we'll get in this video, because otherwise we're going to kind of go over my lowlights of this album. I've kind of talked about a lot of highlights. Now I'll talk about lowlights of Relapse, the deluxe edition. Medicine Ball and Must Be the Ganja are mixed really weird, and the more I visit it, the more I realize it's just a little off. Like it's a little the hi-hats are a little too tangy, a little too sharp in your ear or something. Something is just off about the mixes of these songs. Even without the deluxe songs, it's an hour 20 long, which is also just a really generally long album, even without the bonus songs. With the bonus songs, it's almost 2 hours long, so almost movie length. But generally, I like long albums, especially if they're themed, because it brings me into the world of that album. So what are you going to do? You can always break this up into kind of multiple session listen. And if you do that, you could finish it by the end of the day, even if it's not the deluxe version. Especially if you skip skits, which I think for a concept album, all the skits fit pretty well to tell the story of this being one of 2 albums where Eminem kind of comes back into the public limelight with a double disc. Even one skit in this album talking about, he like comes to Steve Bourbon or Paul, one of the 2 guys he kind of recurrently has in albums. He's like, here's my 2 discs. Here's Relapse and Recovery. It's a sister duo pack, kind of comeback album release. It's to tell the story of these 2 albums next to Recovery as a comeback release story and drug recovery story. Although most of this album is the depths of drug addiction, Recovery being the escape from that. So it's really a sister package to these 2 albums to really understand the full story. But this album is great to me on its own, so I just still stand by that. We can appreciate and enjoy art we don't fully agree with or align with, and we always should. So I highly suggest that. Even though for both the Death of Slim Shady album and this album, while I haven't listened to Death of Slim Shady for a second time, I will be covering the deluxe songs here because I've already covered the other album. I might revisit it at some point, who knows. Listen to Eminem for years. I'll give it another shot at some point, maybe. But for both these albums, both Death of Slim Shady and Relapse, there are things I don't fully agree with on both albums, but I still love Relapse even through the things I don't agree with or align with. So I think I wanted to express that here in a way that is a complicated kind of gray area for the wider music review landscape, because I know people really don't like Relapse, so I feel like I'm one of the few people I've seen online talk about how much they like Relapse. Be the change you want to see in the world. As a little treat, though, while I'm here, let's talk about the Slim Shady deluxe songs. 3 songs, starting with a throwback skit to Steve Bourbon, which was also on this album, which was kind of what reminded me of it, introducing us to the songs. West Side Boogie, on the beginning of the Fuel Eminem remix beat, starts off awesome. Love how he rides on it. Grip, the other feature, also does great. Never heard of these 2 artists before this song, but they're pretty good. And the song reminds me that Eminem's at his best nowadays on features are like the chorus guy mainly. Eminem's verse at the end of this has more corny lines about harming disabled people and what I like to call cram rhyming, that both he and Tech Nine does sometimes, although I kind of like Tech Nine more, just, Midwest bias. Where regardless of the meaning behind the words, they just kind of cram words together to make them sound cool or impressive or silly. Like My Shit is a cool beat, and another feature I generally like, but skippable more so than the first song. Eminem's doing way better here on the verses, but it's kind of all carbs and no filling bars. Not a balanced meal of a song. He just really likes rapping about checkered rallies puns. I swear this is the second or third time I've heard him do this this type of reference in a song recently, which is getting a little stale the more you give it to me. I like the line CD as a compact disc, like CD. I'm like, okay, there are lines like that kind of layer as I think about them or read through them on Genius or something. but they're good double meanings, but they're said so fast or with such little inflection on the bar, on the pun, that you don't really pick it up most of the time. You kind of just, it loses their impact when you give so many like kind of crammed rhymes like this. It doesn't mean as much. Just as an example here. And Kyrie and Luca to end the album now. My God, I hated that Jelly Roll song. I hate this one even more. I only hate it as an ending song because at least the Jelly Roll song kind of made sense. My guilty admission for this song, though, is that I kind of like it as a standalone, separate from the album track. I just really don't like that 2 Chainz is rapping about crypto and Bored Ape Yacht Club on this fucking song. If you see my community post about it, you probably know that the second I heard the song for the first time, I was like, wow, he's really like just out here rapping. Like, so many rappers are out here rapping about crypto and shit. And it's just such a rich person scam that it pisses me off every time I hear it. I love 2 Chainz' flow on this, and his features are usually a highlight to me on any song he's on. You'll come to see over my album reviews and just any reviews I do in general, shorts, singles, whatever, on the channel, that I really love voice inflections and animated bouncy delivery in songs, and 2 Chainz has a lot of that. So most of the time, outside of a full album listened by him, I really like him. It's just for some reason, every time I listen to a full album of 2 Chainz, it just like, for some reason, never comes a full circle to really liking it for me. Another great 2 Chainz feature I really love is on Run the Jewels 4. 2 Chainz feature on that album was really great. As a small reference, I really like the kind of shout out 2 Chainz does to Ricky Ross, and the second he says his name, the trademark "huh" comes in the beat in the background. I kind of really like that from Rick Ross himself. The beat change to Eminem feels like a separate song, but it's serviceable enough to not be a bad one for a new song of these 3 new singles or deluxe songs. And the Pete Davidson line was kind of funny to me, but otherwise, you know, didn't really go the full circle to be like a nice package ending to the end of this album. Didn't really add much to Death Slim Shady to me, honestly. I want to talk about both of these here to kind of show where the peak of my Eminem is and where I feel like he is now. Relapse and Marshall Mathers and Slim Shady LP will always still be my favorite Slim Shady albums. Even Marshall Mathers LP 2 I really like to some degree. Some songs better than others, but generally I really like it. For the most part, I just don't like his pop rap angle. I didn't like any era of Recovery. I didn't like some of the songs off of Curtain Call 1 or 2, when he's like does like hits together. I always feel like he puts together his worst collection of singles for me. I'll be honest, one of my least favorite singles of his is even on Relapse, We're the Ones Who Made You, but because it's such a good break from the horrorcore theme, and it's kind of a break we needed, it fits to me on that album, because as you listen through it, you're like, oh, okay, we're getting all this like very, very horrific targeted scenarios. So having a good like just bouncy single break is nice. It's a good breakup between all that. I really would love to see him go into his horror edgy rap again one day. It'd be my favorite album by his outside of Relapse. But honestly, I don't know if we'll ever see that again. So until then, I'll be jamming out to the old shit and other things like the 2 clipping horror albums. There was Addiction to Blood and Visions of Bodies Being Burned. Ash Nico's Halloweenies. I just listened to kind of a medley of those this morning. So that's on my mind. And some ICP when I feel it. Although writing the script kind of reminded me I need to listen to ICP again. It's been about a year or so since I've heard them at all. Used to be really big into them like into high school. Well, just in general, how are you feeling about this? How do you feel about this review, this album? What are you listening to? Let me know in the comments. I'm Not Man Kelp Street. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you around, Kelpies. Bye.